Cassie, when will you stop embarrassing this family? Mother's voice cuts through the morning calm like a knife. I stare defiantly over my coffee mug, heart pounding. I didn't realize existing was embarrassing. Don't be smart, father snaps. Your sister manages to dress appropriately for family breakfast. Jocelyn shifts uncomfortably in her pressed blouse and slacks. I glance down at my paint-splattered overalls, a rebellion in denim. I came straight from a studio, I say. My art doesn't keep anchors hours. Mother's lips tighten. Art. Is that what you're calling those? Scribbles now. The words sting, but I refuse to let it show. My name is Cassandra Harlow, Cassie to the few who actually know me, and I'm suffocating in a family that can't see past their own expectations. They're good enough for the buyers at the gallery, I retort. Father scoffs. Buyers. As if anyone with taste would pay for that nonsense. Warren, Mother hisses, not at the table. But he's on a roll now. When are you going to grow up, Cassandra? Your sister's already making partner at her law firm. What do you have to show for yourself? I grip my mug tighter, knuckles white. I have my integrity. And my freedom. Freedom, he laughs bitterly. Is that what you call mooching off your parents at 28? I pairent, igro? For this overpriced closet you call a guest house. A pittance, Mother sniffs. Hardly covers the utilities. Jocelyn clears her throat. Maybe we could talk about something else? The weather's been lovely. Stay out of this. Father and I snap in unison. She shrinks back, and for a moment, I feel a pang of guilt. It's not her fault she's their golden child. I stand abruptly, chair scraping against the hardwood. I think I've lost my appetite. Sit down, Father commands. We're not finished. I say, heading for the door. Mother's voice follows me. This is why you'll never amount to anything, Cassandra. You can't even finish a simple family breakfast. I pause, hand on the doorknob. The urge to lash out, to hurt them as they've hurt me, is overwhelming. But I swallow it down. You're right, Mother. I can't finish this. Not anymore. I step out into the crisp morning air, letting the door slam behind me. The manicured lawn of the main house stretches before me, a perfect facade hiding the rot beneath. I stride across it, grass staining my bare feet. My phone buzzes. A text from Jocelyn. I'm sorry. They shouldn't have said those things. I ignore it, shoving the phone back in my pocket. Her pity is almost worse than their scorn. The guest house, my prison for the past year, looms ahead. I'd moved back in after a bad breakup and an eviction notice, swallowing my pride for what I'd thought would be a few months at most. Now it feels like quicksand slowly pulling me under. Inside, I survey the cramped space. Canvases line the walls, splashes of color defying the beige monotony my parents prefer. My latest piece sits on the easel, an abstract swirl of reds and blacks, emotion made visible. I grab my battered suitcase from the closet and start throwing clothes in haphazardly. Enough is enough. I can't keep suffocating here, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. A knock at the door interrupts my frenzied packing. Cassie. It's Jocelyn. Can we talk? I hesitate, then open the door. She takes in the suitcase, eyes widening. You're leaving? I have to. I say. I can't do this anymore, Jose. She nods slowly. I understand. But where will you go? I laugh, a bit hysterically. No idea. But anywhere's better than here. Jocelyn bites her lip. Let me help. I can lend you some money just to get started. No. I cut her off. I appreciate it, but I need to do this on my own. She looks hurt, but nods again. Okay, just. Promise you'll stay in touch. I soften slightly. It's not her fault she's the daughter they wanted. I promise. As I finish packing, Jocelyn hovers uncertainly. What should I tell them? I zip the suitcase closed with finality. Tell them I'm finally growing up. I shoulder my bag and grab my easel. Jocelyn follows me out, watching as I load everything into my beat-up Volkswagen. Be careful, she says as I slide into the driver's seat. I manage a small smile. Always am. As I pull out of the driveway, I catch a glimpse of my parents watching from the window. Their faces are a mixture of anger and disbelief. I lift my hand in a mock salute, then press down on the accelerator. The mansion shrinks in my rearview mirror, and with each mile, I feel the weight lifting from my chest. I have no idea where I'm going, but for the first time in years, I'm free. And that's worth more than all the approval in the world. The sun beats down on my neck as I adjust my easel, squinting at the canvas before me. It's been 3 weeks since I left home, and the local art fair is my first real attempt at making it on my own. My stomach churns with a mix of excitement and dread. Interesting use of color. A deep voice says behind me. I turn to see a man studying my latest piece, head tilted thoughtfully. Thanks, I reply, trying to gauge if he's being sincere or sarcastic. His rugged good looks are offset by grease-stained hands and well-worn jeans. Not exactly the typical art fair patron. He grins, disarming me completely. I mean it. The way you've captured light here, he points to a swirl of yellow and orange. It's like looking at a sunset through stained glass. I blink, surprised by his insight. That's exactly what I was going for. He extends a hand. I'm Rhett Lawson. Cassie Harlow, I say, shaking it. His grip is firm, calloused. So, Cassie Harlow, he says, tell me about this one. He gestures to a darker piece, all stormy blues and grays. I hesitate. It's deeply personal, painted during one of my lowest moments after leaving home. But something in Rhett's open expression makes me want to share. It's about feeling trapped, I explain. Like you're drowning in expectations that aren't your own. Rhett nods slowly. I get that. Family stuff. I laugh humorlessly. Is it that obvious? Let's just say I recognize the look, he says with a wry smile. So, what did you do to get out from under it? This, I say, gesturing to my paintings. I left. Decided it was time to sink or swim on my own terms. Brave, Rhett says, and there's genuine admiration in his voice. We talk for hours, the rest of the fair fading into background noise. Rhett, it turns out, is a mechanic with a passion for restoring vintage cars. He describes engines the way I talk about color theory, with an enthusiasm that's infectious. As the fair winds down, Rhett helps me pack up my unsold pieces. So, he says casually, I was thinking of taking a drive up the coast tomorrow. There's this great little seafood shack about 2 hours north. Want to come? I hesitate. It's impulsive, maybe even reckless. But isn't that what I wanted when I left home? To take chances, to live freely? You know what? Yeah, I say, surprising myself. I'd love to. Rhett's face lights up. Great. I'll pick you up at 10. The next morning, I'm waiting outside my cheap motel room when Rhett pulls up in a gleaming 1967 Mustang convertible. My jaw drops. You like? He asks, patting the hood affectionately. It's gorgeous. I breathe, running a hand along the smooth paint. Restore her myself, Rhett says proudly. Hop in. We cruise up the coast, wind whipping through my hair. Rhett keeps me laughing with stories of disastrous first dates and entitled customers. For the first time in years, I feel truly relaxed. The seafood shack lives up to Rhett's praise. We devour fresh crab cakes and clam chowder at a weathered picnic table overlooking the ocean. So, Rhett says, wiping his mouth, what's next for you? After the fair, I mean. I shrug, suddenly self-conscious. Honestly, I have no idea. I've got enough saved to last a couple months. But after that, I trail off, the reality of my situation sinking in. Rhett nods thoughtfully. You know, my mom runs this little gallery in town. Nothing fancy, but she's always looking for fresh talent. Want me to put in a word? I stare at him, torn between gratitude and pride. That's really kind of you, but I don't want charity. It's not charity, Rhett insists. Your work is good, Cassie. Really good. Mom's got a great eye. If she likes what she sees, it's because you deserve it. I bite my lip, considering. It's a lifeline, a chance to actually make this crazy dream work. Okay, I say finally. If she's interested, I'd love to meet her. Rhett grins. Great. I'll set it up. As we drive back, the sun setting in a blaze of color that puts my paintings to shame, I feel a spark of hope ignite in my chest. For the first time since I left home, the future doesn't seem quite so daunting. We pull up to my motel, and Rhett kills the engine. There's a moment of charged silence. I had a really great time today, I say softly. Me too, Rhett replies. He leans in and I meet him halfway. The kiss is gentle, tentative at first, then deepens. When we finally break apart, we're both a little breathless. So, Rhett says, a mischievous glint in his eye, what do you say we make this a regular thing? The road trips, I mean, he adds hastily. Although, the kissing part was pretty great too. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have in years. I'd like that, I say. Both parts. As I watch Rhett drive away, I realize I've taken my first real step towards independence. It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Whatever comes next, I know I'm ready to face it head on. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Rhett and I sit on a checkered blanket, the remains of our picnic scattered around us. 6 months have passed since that first road trip, and every day has been an adventure. Cassie, Rhett says, his voice uncharacteristically serious. These past months have been the happiest of my life. I turn to him, smiling. Mine too. He takes a deep breath, reaching into his pocket. I know it might seem fast, but when you know, right? He pulls out a small velvet box, and my heart skips a beat. Cassandra Harlow, will you marry me? The ring inside is simple but beautiful, a delicate silver band with a small, sparkling diamond. It's nothing like the gaudy rocks my mother always fawned over, and I love it all the more for that. Yes, I breathe, tears pricking my eyes. Yes, of course I will. Rhett's face breaks into a radiant grin as he slips the ring onto my finger. We kiss as the last rays of sunlight fade, wrapped in the warmth of our shared joy. Reality crashes back the next morning as I stare at my phone, thumb hovering over my parents' number. I have to tell them, but the thought makes my stomach churn. You don't have to do this, Rhett says, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I lean into his embrace. I do. They're still my family, even if... I trail off, unable to finish the thought. I'll be right here, he promises. Taking a deep breath, I hit call. Mother answers on the third ring. Cassandra? Is everything all right? Everything's fine, Mother, I say, steeling myself. I have news. I'm engaged. There's a long pause. I see, she says finally, her voice tight. And who is the lucky man? His name is Rhett. He's a mechanic, specializes in vintage car restoration. Another pause, longer this time. A mechanic, she repeats flatly. Cassandra, surely you can't be serious. I am, I say, my resolve strengthening. We'd like you to meet him. Maybe we could come for dinner next week. I can practically hear her internal struggle. Finally, she sighs. I suppose that would be acceptable. Wednesday at 7. The week drags by, a mix of anticipation and dread. Rhett remains steadfast, his quiet confidence bolstering my own. When Wednesday arrives, we pull up to my parents' house in Rhett's prized Mustang. Ready, he asks, squeezing my hand. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. Mother answers the door, her smile brittle. Cassandra. And you must be... Rhett. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Harlow, Rhett says warmly, extending his hand. She shakes it briefly, her nose wrinkling slightly at the lingering traces of motor oil. Come in, please. Father and Jocelyn are waiting in the living room. Jocelyn hugs me tightly, whispering congratulations in my ear. Father merely nods, his expression unreadable. Dinner is a tense affair. Mother peppers Rhett with questions about his background and education, each answer clearly disappointing her. Father remains mostly silent, watching Rhett with narrowed eyes. So, Rhett, he finally says as dessert is served. What are your intentions with my daughter? Rhett meets his gaze steadily. To love her, support her dreams, and build a life together. Father scoffs. Noble sentiment. But how do you intend to provide for her? Surely you don't expect her to live on a mechanic's salary. Dad, I interject, anger flaring. I can provide for myself. My art. Your art. He cuts me off dismissively. Cassandra, it's time to be realistic. This dalliance has gone on long enough. Dalliance. I repeat, incredulous. We're getting married. No, Father says firmly. You're not. I forbid it. The room falls silent. Even Mother looks shocked. You forbid it? I say, my voice dangerously quiet. I'm not a child, Dad. You don't get to forbid anything. As long as you're part of this family, then maybe I don't want to be part of this family. I shout, standing abruptly. Come on, Rhett. We're leaving. Rhett rises, his face a mask of calm. Thank you for dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Harlow. I'm sorry we couldn't find common ground. As we head for the door, Jocelyn catches my arm. Cassie, wait. They'll come around. Just give them time. I shake my head, tears threatening to spill. I've given them my whole life, Jose. I can't do it anymore. Outside, I collapse against the car, sobs racking my body. Rhett holds me close, murmuring soothing words. I'm so sorry, I choke out. You didn't deserve that. He tilts my chin up, his eyes full of love. Hey, none of that. I knew what I was signing up for, remember? We're in this together. As we drive away, I feel a strange mix of grief and liberation. The bridge to my old life is burning, but ahead lies a future full of possibility, one I get to shape with my own hands. So, Rhett says, a hint of his usual humor returning. Wanna elope? I laugh through my tears, the weight on my chest easing slightly. You know what? That doesn't sound half bad. As the lights of my childhood home fade in the rearview mirror, I realize I've made my choice. Whatever comes next, Rhett and I will face it together, on our own terms. The key scrapes in a lock as Rhett and I stumble into our new loft, arms laden with boxes. Sunlight streams through the large windows, illuminating the dusty hardwood floors and exposed brick walls. Home sweet home, Rhett says, dropping a box with a grunt. I spin slowly, taking it all in. It's small, rough around the edges, and absolutely perfect. I can't believe we did it, I breathe. Rhett wraps his arms around me from behind. Believe it, babe. This is our fresh start. We spend the day unpacking, transforming the empty space into something uniquely ours. My easel claims a corner by the window, while Rhett's vintage car posters add character to the bare walls. By nightfall, we collapse onto our second-hand couch, exhausted but exhilarated. To new beginnings, Rhett says, clinking his beer bottle against mine. And to telling convention to shove it, I add with a grin. The next few weeks are a whirlwind of activity. Rhett throws himself into getting his restoration shop up and running, working long hours to transform an old garage into his dream workspace. I set up an online store for my art, nervously listing my first few pieces. You're sure about the prices? I ask Rhett for the 100th time, hovering over the publish button. He kisses my forehead. Your work is worth every penny, Cass. Trust yourself. Taking a deep breath, I click publish. It feels like sending a piece of my soul out into the world. Days pass with no sales, and doubt begins to creep in. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe this is all just a pipe dream. I throw myself into painting, channeling my frustration onto canvas. One morning, I wake to Rhett shaking me excitedly. Cassie, wake up. You've got to see this. I blink groggily at the laptop screen he's thrust in front of me. It takes a moment for the numbers to register. Wait, is that? You sold 3 paintings overnight, but whoops. And look at the comments. They love your work. Tears spring to my eyes as I read the glowing reviews. It's not just the money, though that's certainly welcome. It's the validation, the proof that my art speaks to people. I told you, Rhett says softly, pulling me close. You're amazing, Cass. The sales continue steadily over the next few months. I expand my online presence, even landing a few commissions. Meanwhile, Rhett's shop gains a reputation for quality work, attracting a loyal clientele of classic car enthusiasts. One evening, as we're celebrating another successful week, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Jocelyn. Can we talk? It's important. My stomach twists. I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that disastrous dinner. Part of me wants to ignore it, to protect the life Rhett and I have built. But curiosity wins out. Hey, Jose, I say when she picks up. What's going on? Her voice is strained. It's Dad. There's been a scandal at the university. He's been forced to resign. The news hits me like a punch to the gut. Despite everything, I never imagined my father's carefully constructed world crumbling. What happened? Jocelyn hesitates. It's complicated. Financial improprieties, abuse of power. It's all over the local news. I sink onto the couch, mind reeling. Rhett sits beside me, concern etched on his face. How are Mom and Dad handling it? I ask, though I can already guess the answer. Not well, Jocelyn sighs. Mom's a wreck, and Dad, he's not the man we knew, Cass. They're going to lose the house. Everything. A part of me, a petty, wounded part, wants to feel satisfied. Isn't this karma for how they treated me? But the larger part aches for my family, for the pain they must be going through. What do you need from me, Jose? I ask quietly. She takes a shaky breath. I hate to ask, but could you come see them? They won't admit it, but I think they need you. I close my eyes, conflicting emotions warring within me. Rhett squeezes my hand supportively, and I draw strength from his presence. I'll think about it. I say finally. I can't promise anything, but I'll think about it. After I hang up, I fill Rhett in on the situation. He listens without judgment, his steady presence a balm to my churning thoughts. Whatever you decide, he says when I finish, I'm with you. If you want to see them, we'll go together. If you want to stay away, I'll support that too. I lean into him, grateful beyond words for his unwavering support. I don't know what to do, I admit. Part of me wants to help, but another part is terrified of getting sucked back into their world. Rhett nods thoughtfully. You don't have to decide right now. Sleep on it. Whatever choice you make, it'll be the right one for you. As I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, I realize that this is the true test of the independence I've fought so hard for. The choice to help or not is mine alone, not dictated by obligation or fear, but by my own values and desires. Whatever I decide, I know it will shape the next chapter of my life. And for the first time, I feel truly ready to write that chapter on my own terms. The sharp knock at the door jolts me from my painting trance. I glance at the clock, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Rhett's at the shop, and we're not expecting anyone. I open the door to find Jocelyn standing there, looking like she hasn't slept in days. Her usually immaculate suit is wrinkled, her hair disheveled. Jess? I say, stunned. What are you doing here? She pushes past me into the loft, her eyes darting around wildly. Nice place, she says, her voice brittle. Very bohemian. Thanks, I reply cautiously. Jocelyn, what's going on? You look terrible. She laughs, a harsh, humorless sound. Oh, you haven't heard? I thought surely it would have reached your artistic circles by now. My stomach tightens. Heard what? Jocelyn collapses onto our couch, suddenly looking very small. It's Dad, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. He's been fired from the university. There's a huge scandal. The news hits me like a physical blow. I sink down next to her, mind reeling. What happened? Financial improprieties, Jocelyn says, her voice hollow. Embezzlement, kickbacks from contractors. It's all over the news. They're saying he could face criminal charges. I struggle to reconcile this information with the image of my father, stern, principled, always lecturing us about integrity. I don't understand. Why would he do that? Jocelyn shakes her head. I don't know. Greed? Desperation? He's not talking to anyone, not even Mom. How is she taking it? How do you think? Jocelyn snaps. Her whole world is crumbling. The country club set she was so desperate to impress? They've all turned their backs on her. We're going to lose the house, Cassie. Everything. The weight of it all settles on me. Despite everything, a part of me aches for them. I'm so sorry, Jose. Is there anything I can do? She looks at me, eyes suddenly sharp. Actually, yes. That's why I'm here. I tense, sensing what's coming. They need help, Cass, Jocelyn pleads. Financial help. I've done what I can, but with the legal fees and everything else, it's not enough. I stand abruptly, pacing the small space. Jose, I don't know if I can do that. Can't or won't, she challenges. Both. I explode. Do you have any idea what it's been like, building this life from scratch? Every penny I make goes back into my art or our living expenses. And even if I could afford it, after everything they've put me through, Jocelyn's eyes flash. So that's it? You're just going to abandon them when they need you most. Abandon them? I repeat incredulously. Like they abandoned me when I chose to follow my passion? When I fell in love with someone they deemed unworthy? That's different, Jocelyn argues weakly. Is it? I counter. They made their choices, Jose, just like I made mine. We glare at each other, years of unspoken resentment bubbling to the surface. Finally, Jocelyn deflates. I'm sorry, she says softly. I shouldn't have come here demanding things. I don't know what to do, Cass. I feel like I'm drowning. My anger fades, replaced by a complicated mix of empathy and wariness. I sit back down, taking her hand. I get it. Really, I do. But I can't just write a check and make this all go away. Jocelyn nods, looking defeated. I understand. I should go. As she stands to leave, a thought strikes me. Wait, I say. I can't give you money, but maybe I could talk to them? Try to help them figure out their next steps. Hope flickers in Jocelyn's eyes. You do that. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. Yeah, I think I need to, for my own closure if nothing else. Jocelyn hugs me tightly. Thank you, Cass. You have no idea what this means. After she leaves, I sink back onto the couch, emotions swirling. When Rhett comes home, I fill him in on everything. Wow, he says when I finish. That's a lot to process. How are you feeling about it all? I laugh humorlessly. Honestly, I have no idea. Part of me wants to help them, to be the bigger person. But another part is scared of getting sucked back in. Rhett finishes. I nod, grateful for his understanding. He pulls me close. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But Cass, don't let guilt drive your choices. You've worked too hard for this life to throw it away out of obligation. I lean into him, drawing strength from his steady presence. I know. I think I need to see them, to understand what happened, and maybe find some closure. But I'm not going to sacrifice everything we've built. I can't. Rhett kisses my forehead. That sounds like a good plan. Want me to come with you? I consider it, then shake my head. No, I think this is something I need to do on my own. But thank you for offering. As I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, I realized that this visit could change everything. Will seeing my parents in their fallen state bring resolution or open old wounds? Can I find a way to help without compromising my own hard-won independence? Whatever happens, I know this confrontation has been a long time coming, and for better or worse, it will shape the next chapter of all our lives. The elevator creaks ominously as it ascends to the 5th floor of a rundown apartment building. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for what's to come. The doors open, revealing a dimly lit hallway with peeling wallpaper. This is a far cry from the pristine mansion I grew up in. I find the right door and knock, my heart pounding. There's a long pause before I hear shuffling footsteps. The door opens a crack, and I see my mother's face, pale and drawn. Cassandra, she says, surprise evident in her voice. What are you doing here? Hello, Mother, I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. Jocelyn told me what happened. I thought I should come see you. She hesitates, then opens the door wider. Come in, isso was. The apartment is small and cluttered, nothing like the meticulously decorated home I remember. Dad sits in a threadbare armchair, staring blankly at a muted TV. He doesn't look up as I enter. Warren, Mother says sharply. Cassandra's here. He grunts, finally turning to face me. The man before me is a shadow of the imposing figure from my childhood. His eyes are sunken, his clothes rumpled. Come to gloat, have you? He says bitterly. I flinch at his tone. No, Dad. I came to see if you're okay. He laughs humorlessly. Okay? We've lost everything. My career, our home, our reputation, all gone. And now you show up, playing the concerned daughter? I am concerned, I insist. You're still my parents, despite everything. Mother bustles around, clearing papers off a small couch. Sit down, Cassandra. Would you like some tea? I nod, grateful for the momentary distraction. As she disappears into the kitchenette, I take a seat, acutely aware of Dad's glare. So, I say, desperate to break the tension, have you thought about what you're going to do next? Dad scoffs. Do? What can we do? I'm radioactive in academia now. Your mother's little society friends won't even return her calls. We're finished. His defeatist attitude grates on me. You're not finished. You're just starting over. Easy for you to say, he snaps. You chose this life of struggle. We had everything, and now you know what it's like to live without a safety net, I finish. Like I've been doing since I left. Mother returns with the tea, her hands shaking slightly as she sets down the tray. Let's not argue, she pleads. Cassandra, tell us about your life. Are you managing all right? I see the real question in her eyes. Are you here to help us? The realization sends a chill through me. Is that all I am to them now? A potential lifeline? I'm doing well, I say carefully. My art is selling, and Rhett's business is taking off. Ah yes, the mechanic, Dad mutters. I ignore the jab. We're building a life together. It's not always easy, but it's ours. Mother nods, a forced smile on her face. That's lovely, dear. And have you given any thought to, well, family obligations? Now that we're in this difficult situation. And there it is, the request I've been dreading. I set down my teacup, my resolve hardening. I can't give you money, I say firmly. Even if I could afford it, which I can't, it wouldn't solve the underlying problems. Dad's face darkens. So, you'll abandon us in our time of need? After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me? I repeat incredulously. You mean criticizing every choice I've made? Trying to force me into a life I never wanted? We wanted what was best for you. Mother interjects. No, I say, my voice rising. You wanted what was best for your image. You never once asked what I wanted. Dad stands abruptly, looming over me. We gave you every advantage, and this is how you repay us? By turning your back when we need you most. I stand too, refusing to be intimidated. I'm not turning my back. I'm here, aren't I? But I won't enable you to avoid taking responsibility for your actions. Responsibility, he roars. You ungrateful. Enough, Mother cries, tears in her eyes. Please, both of you, stop this. We fall silent, the air thick with tension. I take a deep breath, trying to center myself. Look, I say more calmly. I can't give you money, but I want to help. I can help you look for jobs or find resources for people in your situation. But you have to be willing to start over, to rebuild. Dad slumps back into his chair, suddenly looking very old. What's the point? He mutters. I kneel beside him, taking his hand. It's the first time we've touched in years. The point is that you're still here. You still have each other and Jocelyn and me, if you want. Mother joins us, her hand on Dad's shoulder. Perhaps Cassandra is right, Warren. We can't go back, but we can go forward. He looks at me, really looks at me for what feels like the first time. You've grown up, he says softly. When did that happen? I smile sadly. While you weren't looking. As I leave the apartment an hour later, I feel drained but oddly hopeful. It's not a fairy tale reconciliation, but it's a start. A chance to build a new relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than expectations. I step out into the fading sunlight, taking a deep breath of the city air. Whatever comes next, I know I can face it. I've found my strength, my voice, and no one can take that away from me. The tension in the small apartment is palpable as I stand facing my parents. What started as a tentative attempt at reconciliation has devolved into a bitter confrontation. Mother's face is flushed with anger, while Dad glowers from his armchair. How can you be so heartless, Cassandra? Mother demands, her voice shrill. After everything we've done for you, you'd abandon us in our time of need? I take a deep breath, fighting to keep my composure. I'm not abandoning you. I've offered to help you find resources to support you emotionally. But I can't just write a check and make this all go away. Support us emotionally? Dad scoffs. What good is that when we're about to be evicted? Maybe if you'd supported me emotionally all these years, things would be different now. I retort, years of pent-up frustration bubbling to the surface. Mother gasps. How dare you? We gave you everything. Everything except acceptance, I say, my voice rising. Everything except the freedom to be myself. Oh, here we go again with the artist nonsense, Dad mutters. Something inside me snaps. It's not nonsense. It's who I am, who I've always been. But you were too busy trying to mold me into your perfect daughter to see that. We wanted what was best for you. Mother cries. No, I counter, years of hope pouring out. You wanted what was best for your image. Do you have any idea what it was like growing up in this house? The constant criticism, the impossible standards? They stare at me, stunned by my outburst. Every time I showed you a painting, you asked why I couldn't be more like Jocelyn. I continue, unable to stop now that the floodgates have opened. Every accomplishment was met with, that's nice, but when are you going to do something real with your life? Do you know what that does to a child? Dad starts to speak, but I cut him off. And now that your carefully constructed world has crumbled, you expect me to swoop in and save you? To sacrifice the life I've built, the happiness I've found, to prop up your pride? We're your parents, Mother says weakly. Yes, you are, I acknowledge, my voice softening slightly. And I love you, but I won't set myself on fire to keep you warm. The silence that follows is deafening. Mother sinks onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Dad stares at the floor, his jaw clenched. I never realized, he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. We thought we were pushing you to be your best self. Your version of my best self, I correct gently. Not mine. Mother looks up at me, really looks at me, perhaps for the first time in years. You've grown so strong, she says, a mix of pride and regret in her voice. When did that happen? It happened when I stopped trying to be who you wanted me to be and started being true to myself. I reply. Dad clears his throat. And this life you've built, with the mechanic, you're truly happy? I nod, a small smile playing at my lips. Happier than I've ever been. Rhett sees me, the real me. He supports my dreams without trying to change them. I suppose we owe him an apology, Mother says quietly. You owe a lot of people apologies, I say, but without malice, including yourselves. They exchange a look, years of shared history passing between them. We've made a mess of things, haven't we? Dad says ruefully. I sit down between them, taking each of their hands in mine. Yes, you have. But it's not too late to start fixing it. How? Mother asks, her voice small and uncertain. By taking responsibility for your actions, I say firmly, by rebuilding your lives on a foundation of honesty and humility instead of pride and appearances. Dad nods slowly. It won't be easy. No, I agree. It won't. But I'll be here to support you if you'll let me. Not financially, but as your daughter. As someone who loves you, flaws and all. Mother squeezes my hand. We don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, I say. But I'm offering it anyway. Because that's who I am, the person I've become despite everything. For the first time in years, I see a glimmer of genuine pride in their eyes, not for what I've accomplished, but for who I am. We have a lot to learn from you, Cassandra, Dad says softly. I stand, feeling lighter than I have in years. It's not too late to start. As I leave the apartment, I feel a sense of closure I never thought possible. The road ahead won't be easy for any of us, but for the first time I feel like we might be able to walk it together as equals. I step out into the fading sunlight, taking a deep breath of the city air. Whatever comes next, I know I can face it. I've found my strength, my voice. And in doing so, I may have finally helped my parents find theirs. The future is uncertain, but it's ours to shape. And for the first time in my life, I'm truly excited to see what holds. The crisp autumn air carries the scent of possibility as I stand before the newly expanded Lawson's Vintage Restorations. Rhett's dream has grown, and with it, a space for my own aspirations to flourish. The storefront gleams, half filled with lovingly restored classic cars, the other half transformed into a cozy art gallery showcasing my work. Ready for this? Rhett asks, squeezing my hand. I take a deep breath, nodding. As I'll ever be. The grand opening is a whirlwind of faces, friends, fellow artists, car enthusiasts, and curious locals. I float between conversations, my heart swelling with pride at the admiring glances cast at both the vehicles and my paintings. This is incredible, Cassie, a familiar voice says behind me. I turn to see Jocelyn, looking slightly out of place in her tailored suit but smiling genuinely. Just, I exclaim, pulling her into a hug. I'm so glad you could make it. She steps back, taking in the gallery. I wouldn't have missed it. Your work, it's beautiful. I never really understood before, but now I see what you've been trying to tell us all along. Her words bring unexpected tears to my eyes. Thank you. I manage. That means more than you know. Jocelyn's expression turns serious. Listen, I wanted to apologize. For everything. For not standing up for you more, for buying into Mom and Dad's expectations. I shake my head, cutting her off. You don't need to apologize. We were both just trying to survive in that house, in our own ways. She nods, looking relieved. How are they doing? Mom and Dad, I mean. I know you've been in touch more than I have lately. I consider my words carefully. They're trying. It's not easy, but they're making an effort to rebuild their lives, to see things differently. Dad's even talking about volunteering at a community college, teaching a night class. Wow, Jocelyn says, clearly surprised. That's not what I expected. Me neither, I admit. But I think losing everything forced them to reevaluate what really matters. Our conversation is interrupted by Rhett's mother, Evelyn, bustling over with a tray of champagne flutes. Girls, you must have a toast. This is a celebration after all. We accept the glasses, and Evelyn pulls me into a warm hug. I'm so proud of you both, she says, her eyes shining. You've built something truly special here. As she moves on to mingle with other guests, Jocelyn raises an eyebrow. She seems lovely. She is, I say, a wave of gratitude washing over me. She's been more of a mother to me these past few years than I trail off, not wanting to reopen old wounds. Jocelyn nods in understanding. I'm glad you found that support, Cass. You deserve it. The evening progresses, a steady stream of well-wishers and potential clients flowing through the doors. As things begin to wind down, Rhett joins me by my favorite painting, a swirling abstract that somehow captures both the freedom of the open road and the comfort of coming home. Quite a night, huh? He says, wrapping an arm around my waist. I lean into him, exhausted but elated. It's more than I ever dreamed possible. He kisses the top of my head. You made it happen, Cass. Your talent, your determination, that's what brought us here. We made it happen, I correct him. I couldn't have done any of this without you believing in me. As the last guests trickle out, Jocelyn approaches us again. I should get going, she says. But before I do, Mom and Dad asked me to give you this. She hands me an envelope. With trembling fingers, I open it to find a card. Inside, in my father's precise handwriting, is a simple message. Cassandra, we are so proud of the woman you've become and the life you've built. We were wrong to try to change you, and we're sorry it took us so long to see that. If you're willing, we'd like to start over, to get to know the real you, and to be the parents you always deserved. With love and admiration, Mom and Dad. Tears blur my vision as I pass the card to Rhett. He reads it silently, then pulls me close. What do you think? He asks gently. I take a shaky breath. I think it's a start. A real one, this time. Jocelyn smiles, looking relieved. They really mean it, Cass. They've changed, or at least they're trying to. I nod, a complex mix of emotions swirling within me. Tell them. Tell them I'd like that. To start over. As Jocelyn leaves, Rhett and I stand in the quiet gallery, surrounded by the fruits of our labor and love. So, he says, a mischievous glint in his eye. What's next for us, Cassandra Harlow soon-to-be Lawson? I laugh, feeling lighter than I have in years. I don't know exactly, but for the first time in my life, I'm excited to find out. We step outside, locking up our new shared space. The street is quiet, the city winding down for the night. But for us, it feels like a new dawn. As we walk hand in hand towards our loft, I realize that this moment, this life we've built, is the masterpiece I've been working towards all along. It's not perfect, it's not what anyone else planned for me, but it's beautifully, authentically mine. And that I now know is worth more than all the approval in the world.